In my 1000 subscriber special, I said I wouldn't be doing any voiced videos in the near future, but due to my upload schedule, it is no longer the near future. And somehow my channel hit 2000 subscribers a while back, so I figured I'd do another one of these. A lot of you are probably familiar with the 252 versus 243 debate. In short, 252 is the best base setup, and we've known this for over 2 years, but lots of players continue to cope that their 243 is actually better. In this video, I'll go over 10 misconceptions about 252 that are often used to defend 243, and why they're incorrect or irrelevant. Let's get started. Number 1. 252 can't be used late game, and is only for new players. Many guides from close to the Arknight's global launch set to use the 252 for early game, and to switch to 243 or 153 later on. They assumed the 252 didn't have enough power to max out the training room, so it'd be impossible to get M3s later on. But maxing the training room is actually pretty simple. Downgrade some factories and you can free up more than enough power. So the 252 base is perfectly usable late game. Number 2. A 252 with a maxed right side is impossible or worse than 243. Most older players maxed out their entire 243 base before learning that 252 was better, including myself. Unfortunately, since you can't downgrade the buildings on the right side, this causes permanent power issues with the 252 setup. Lots of players think this makes it completely impossible to switch to a 252 base. Of course, they're wrong. A so-called max right 252 just needs to downgrade its factories a bit further, and it'll have enough power to work. Downgrading factories will decrease production though, so it's worse than other 252 variants that don't have maxed right sides. And lots of players think this also makes it worse than a fully upgraded 243. Of course, they're also wrong. 252 is still slightly better, though the difference is pretty small. 243 can come closer with more frequent rotations and certain base skills, but it almost never beats 252. Number 3. 252 is harder to micromanage, and is bad for casuals. This is a very common one. 252 keeps its dorms at low levels to save power, and low-level dorms means it's harder to manage morale, right? Well, if you think about it, no. If anything, the opposite is true. The slow morale recovery prevents you from rotating your operators frequently, and basically forces you to micromanage less. Meanwhile, 243's max level dorms recover morale quickly and allow you to rotate more often, although you can simply choose not to. But a 252 with lazy micromanagement will still beat a 243 with more frequent rotations. To be fair, if you screw up your rotations and have a bunch of operators at 0 morale, a 243's max storms will let you recover more quickly. But since 252 produces more items in the first place, this doesn't really matter. Number 4. 252 needs more base skills or operators to function. This misconception stems from the fact that 252 has more factories, but remember that most 252 setups will have some factories at level 2 to save power, which means fewer slots for base workers. In fact, the maxed right 252 has one fewer slot than a 243, 11 versus 12. And the 252 still beats 243. Other 252 variants have more slots, but this doesn't mean it requires more base skills. If you don't have enough base skills, just throw anyone into the factory slot. They'll still give a production boost of 1%. It's a very small boost, but 252 already beats 243 anyways, and it's better than completely wasting the extra slots compared to a max right 252. Number 5. 243 is better than 252 with more base skills. This is basically the opposite of the last one. 243's max level dorms let operators recover morale faster, so if you rotate frequently, you can increase the uptime of good base skills more than 252 can. Some players think 243 can beat 252 with enough good base skills. This is partially true, but has several conditions. You need to rotate every 6 hours to use 243's higher uptime in the first place, which I do not recommend doing. You also need to E2 several specific base workers and avoid having some other base skills. Oh, also, this only lets a 243 beat a max right 252. Other 252 variants are still much better. Number 6. 243 gives more balanced production. A 243 has 2 trading posts, 2 factories to supply them with gold, and 2 more factories for EXP. Apparently this is some sort of pinnacle of balance, and adding another factory is somehow a bad thing. This doesn't really make any sense. Lots of players think a 252's extra factory can only be used for more EXP. For some reason they assume that everyone is bottlenecked by LMD instead, so a 252 is useless. First of all, it's pretty dumb to assume that everyone has a surplus of EXP, but that's beside the point. More importantly, a 252's extra factory isn't limited to just EXP. It's actually quite common to switch it between EXP and gold, while using all drones on trading posts for more LMD. So both base layouts can be adjusted to provide whatever LMD to EXP ratio a player needs. 252 is actually slightly more flexible in this regard. 252 can go even further if you periodically switch to a 342 setup and back, but that's a topic for another time. Anyways, in short, 252 is a lot more flexible with its LMD to EXP ratio, so if anything, it's more balanced. Number 7. A max level office gives more recruitments or refreshes. This one is just false. We've known from the beginning that upgrading the office barely does anything. It doesn't speed up recruiting, and it doesn't give you more refreshes. All it does is give you a small LMD discount and some extra recruitment slots. The LMD discount is so small we can almost ignore it, and since we'll be bottlenecked by recruitment permits anyways, the extra slots don't make a difference. To be fair, the only time office upgrades do give refreshes is when the recruitment pool gets updated. For example, when PureStream was added, all recruitment tags were reshuffled. But this has only happened a few times in the years that Arknights has been online, so it's basically irrelevant. Number 8. Switching from 243 to 252 is very expensive. Some players with 243 bases are reluctant to switch to 252 because they think it's an expensive investment for a small gain. This is not the case. Since 252 generally has lower level buildings, the conversion process involves downgrading many buildings and upgrading very few. Downgrading factories and dorms will completely refund base boxes, so you don't have to farm for new ones. The only thing you build is a 5th factory, and it only needs to be level 2. This costs 70 drones and is literally the entire cost of switching over. The increased production from even a max right 252 will pay for this in less than a day. Also, now that we have 9-colored deer, the extra base boxes you get from all the downgrading aren't worthless. You might remember this from my 9-colored deer video, but the refunded boxes can be converted into over 300 causality points, which are worth around 200 sanity. This is obviously way more than the cost in drones. So in short, when you switch from 243 to 252, you get a huge one-time bonus of causality points, plus improved base production going forward. There's basically no cost at all, besides having to get used to new base rotations. Number 9. 243 gets more friend credits, so it's better. The max level dorms in 243 give it more friend credits each day. It gets 200 from dorms, while most 252 variants get 72 or 80. Lots of players think this makes 243 better than 252. It doesn't. In fact, after a small Reddit argument, I spent months gathering data on over 1,700 daily credit shops to make sure. By simulating purchases, we can estimate the marginal value of the 120 or so extra credits that 243 gets. Sci-Fi Gemini's spreadsheet actually uses these calculations, but it's such a small difference that most players probably never noticed. Anyways, all 252 variants, including max right, still easily beat 243. Number 10. 243 is better because of trust gain. 243 indeed gets more trust from its high-level dorms, but whether this actually matters is a different story. Trust isn't something that you need an infinite amount of. You only need to hit 100% trust for the operators you use, and maybe 200% for some operator records or for your friends to borrow. Trust gain from ambience is logarithmic, not linear. Basically, this means that while 252 has much less ambience than 243, it doesn't get that much less trust. For example, a max right 252 only has a quarter of the ambience of 243, but gets almost half as much trust from the base. The base isn't the main source of trust anyways. You'll get much more of it from simply trust farming in stages, which 252 and 243 can do equally well. If you add these trust sources together, all base setups should generate more than enough trust for anyone's needs. 252 can get an operator to 100% trust every 2.5 days on average, and 243 does the same in 1.7 days. Hypergriff doesn't release a new operator every few days, so the extra trust from 243 usually just ends up wasted. And those were 10 common misconceptions about 252. At the end of the day, it's better than 243 and always has been. I hope this video helps clarify some of the confusion and misinformation found throughout Arknights communities, but 243 users are probably just gonna keep coping. Also, thanks to all of you for 2,000 subscribers. My last few videos have absolutely blown up on YouTube, and I'm gaining views and subs faster than I ever have. Being pretty much the only base YouTuber probably helps. Anyways, I'll definitely be making more base-related content in the future, so stay tuned and subscribe if you haven't. One final note. I've blurred out usernames and profiles and screenshots throughout this video. Please don't go out of your way to harass these people, no matter how wrong they are about the base. No one is correct 100% of the time. We all make mistakes, so let's be civil about this. Give polite corrections to wrong info when you see it, and don't start a flame war. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in my next video. Whenever it happens to come out. Number 11. 243 is better because aesthetics. This is false because you can arrange 5 factories into a peanut.